Excellent.
Hi.
So nice to see you and hear you.
It's so nice to see you and hear your beautiful voice.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. So
Great. May, me too. Me
Yes.
too. I've been doing it for a lot of decades.
So let's start there because I want to ask you a question about when you first started singing and how you discovered your voice. You've helped so many people discover their own voice. How old were you and how did you discover your voice?
Well, I was thrown onto the stage, I guess you call it a stage, the platform of my church, and I was 4.
Okay.
And interestingly, because that I remember it quite vividly because what happened was the minister's wife was down below me playing the piano for me, and I had my pink crinoline pretty little dress on.
Yes.
And I guess I was quite a perfectionist even at that time. Anyway, I started to sing and all was going well. And then all of a sudden I forgot the words.
Oh dear.
And I probably was so darn cute that everybody laughed.
Oh.
And I thought they were laughing at me.
Oh dear, yes.
But they were laughing because I was so cute. And I never forgot it, and I swore it could have dissuaded me from ever singing again.
Wow.
But I guess I was young enough, and music was such a passion for me that I knew I had to do it again. Hello! We go, oh, Denise, hi!
How are you?
I'm so well. It's good to see you both. My God, it's only been 1,000 years.
So Denise, I had just asked Elaine how old she was when she started singing and how she discovered her voice. And so she explained, I'll let you tell it again, Elaine.
Oh, just that I was on singing in church at 4 years old and up on the platform and singing. And it's so weird because my mother kept the little, they were advertised it in the local newspaper. This is Woodstock, Ontario. That Elaine Overholt would be singing, I Do, Don't You. I do not remember the song at all. But anyway, I forgot the words in the middle, and I was horrified. And I always say I've spent the rest of my life trying to get it right.
Oh my gosh. Well, they say things happen for a reason. So if that helped to motivate everything else that you continue to do, well, then it was a blessing in disguise. But Elaine, obviously somebody knew that you were capable of singing, that they put you in that place in the first place. Like your parents, you had to learn the song.
Sure. Yeah. I don't even remember who taught me. I don't remember whether I learned it on my own or somebody must have taught me. Probably my mother.
Okay.
My mother was a piano player. My dad is a singer, still is. He's 92.
Wow.
And yeah, actually, what I was going to say is I didn't do like much singing at first. It was all about the piano.
Oh.
Yeah, piano
Okay.
was my first instrument, and I spent a lifetime studying classical music, classical piano. I mean, I can still play, right? But that's about all I could play. No. And then I went to, being in the church, I did a lot of gospel music.
Yep.
And because I could sing as well, I don't know, the two were always married. And I always like to tell singers, especially the younger ones, I know learning an instrument is way harder. It takes it's a longer learning curve. It's a bigger arc. It's not as, immediately satisfying. But oh my God, learning an instrument will make you a way better singer
Interesting.
because you
Okay.
understand music, you understand rhythm, and especially stringed instruments, hello, where you train your ear. So usually you have better pitch if you play guitar or, violin or any of the stringed instruments. So, and a lot of people it's harder to learn as an adult, to learn to play an instrument. But oh my God, to be able to sit and, play something for yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Elaine,
Yes.
you are a busy girl, I know, and what you're saying has hit home big time in my house, because I was talking to my daughter Emily, and I think it was about 10 years ago. I brought her to you one afternoon in Toronto to your studio.
I do remember.
And it was just a quick little hello, and I wanted you to kind of do, like, I'm going to say a consultation, or to have a listen, have a look, because you know your breadth of singing in all kinds of genres. And anyway, Emily was a young girl. And we came in and she sang you a couple of songs, and it was great. And obviously the information is invaluable. And your parting word to her was exactly that, which was what she did not expect, what I did not expect. And you said, if you want to improve your voice, practice your piano. And we walked out of the room and it was kind of like, wow. And you did talk about exactly that as a singer, the opportunities it opens up, or that it doesn't exclude you from, because you can play for yourself. And then Emily is a very, very active writer. In her writing,
Wow.
the piano is monstrous. And I'll say this, because your credits, they are beyond. The validation of hearing something like that from you, it really resonated with her, because everything, the focus is singing, singing, singing.
Sure.
Being able to play your instrument. What a value
Right.
it is for your
And
career
don't
going
get me wrong, I spend most of my days and weeks teaching people to sing, but you're right, it opens up other opportunities. I mean, even opportunities for leadership. In other words, who sometimes gets to be the leader of the band? The ones who can play the instruments, who can figure out different keys, who can do this, that, the other thing, make arrangements of the song, not just the singing. Who are the ones that get to be, the leader of the singing around the campfire? The ones that can play the guitar, I always tell guys, hey, it's a chick magnet, That's probably, I hope that's not a sexist thing to say anymore, but, it just gives you a way broader ability to get work as, I spent a good 10 years doing, dabbling in piano bars, because it was really good money at the time. And it was many, many years ago. And I learned, I went from knowing 30 songs to knowing 800 songs in a year. So it just opens up all kinds of other opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing thing. And I think too, as a singer, we hear how the song and how our voice or whatever interprets it. But it would be so much easier if I could just play the accompaniment style of piano I want for the song I'm trying to create.
That's right.
Or the voice I'm trying to give to that lyric.
And of course, everybody's using tracks, pre-recorded tracks these days. We could never do that.
Is that not just incredible that is like, I guess I would say it like this. I really admire everybody who didn't rely on those things, There was some really...
Exactly. And that's what I mean. A lot of people can sing, and a lot of people can sing pretty well. And a lot of people can sing and do well without an instrument. But you literally open up your world by 100% in terms of places to perform and writing and songwriting and writing not just 1, 4, 5 chords, but writing stuff that's a little more intricate if you want to go there. And how did I do it? As a little kid, honest to God, I would just sit there at the piano for hours. And that's the other thing, is that we sometimes don't put in the time. We're a very instant gratification world right now, with videos and Zoom and television and the way films are made with quick. And we don't take the time to really, really, really learn our craft. Because there's a difference between craft and art. You know, you have to learn the nuts and bolts of the craft, the fingering. You have to learn the nuts and the bolts, really, of how to produce good vocal sound so that you don't lose your voice and all of that sort of stuff. Are there people who do really, really well and have had never had a voice lesson in their life? Absolutely. And I will talk about that maybe in the masterclass or workshop or whatever we're doing. Yeah, so I mean, for me to be able to have played this, honest to God, my teacher, I remember my teacher put the sheet of music in front of me in a Chopin, and I went, I can't play that. There's too many notes on the page. I had never played anything that difficult. So she said, you can and you will. And she said, right hand only, please. Play me the first 3 notes. So I'd go, fine. She said, now play it with feeling. She said, I want you to accent the middle note. Oh, so she put me to task to just not play notes, but make a something out of it. And she said, I want you to lean your body in on the second note. And she said, a little faster. And then she said, now, add the next 2 notes. Let's say 4 notes. And again, she said, make them magical, make them magical, make them magical. And a lot of people will sing a song and never be in the moment of making beauty, of making magic, of making it something gorgeous. You know, I can sing love, or I can sing love. That had a little cry in it. I didn't mean to put that in. But you know what I mean? There's a million ways to sing a note. And we don't bring it down to the 1 line at a time. Sometimes maybe 3 words at a time. And say, how am I going to hit this note? You know, if it's a problem area, or, you know, the note's high or something like that. So I'm all about people spending time with practicing. We've lost the ability to practice.
So that is amazing to hear you describe that, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what is the difference between a good voice and a great voice, a good performance and a great performance? Somebody can have a natural ability, but they may not be able to translate. And so what you're talking about is communicating, I think. And
you're right. It's very much about communicating. There's a lot of things. First of all, you have to have the basis of a good voice, technically. In other words, a tone. And people don't pay any attention to their tone. If you notice, the most successful artists, singers, have almost always a really settled tone. It can be a breathy thing, like a hey. It can be that, or it can be, I'm trying to think of like Adele has a really solid, like set, da, and you hear the core. You hear the I call it the backbone to the voice, right? So you've got to have that to begin with. And that can take very little time. A lot of people may have it already because they've been singing that way since they were kids, you know. My little student, Roberta B., who is on America's Got Talent right now and got the golden buzzer, she's 10. She was 8 when I worked with her. And she had that voice when she was 8. It was astounding because her mom said she never stopped singing around the house. So she developed, you know, it's like an athlete developing muscles. She developed a very, very solid voice. She just walked around the house and sang and sang and sang and sang. Okay, so there's that. There's, you know, picking the right material, obviously. You have to have something that your voice and your spirit can dig into. You know, and I always tell people, you know, well, I always tell writers, if you write better lyrics, you know, if you, what is it? If you write better lyrics, I don't know, it will be a better song, obviously. And I'm always encouraging them, just don't write the kind of lyric that everybody else has already written, right? The other thing is, the performance. So the performance is really a conglomeration of technique, communication. What is it that you are wanting to say through this song that you have chosen to do? When you pay attention to that, you do choose better songs. That's what I was trying to say before. You know, I happen to be very big on what are you saying in this song? And you'll see in the masterclass, that's a lot of what I will do. Who are you talking to? You know, and rather than just making it about the general public and looking all over the place and if you really are singing it to a particular person, the singular becomes very universal and more powerful often. I'm not saying every single one, because I think there are many times when you're just doing a real feel-good song, a real, you know, kicking butt song that's just like killer from beginning to end, and it's just a happy song. And then probably you're just going to look at people in the audience. But then again, you want to include them. Right? You don't want to just be singing off in your own little world kind of thing. And then you might get a ballad that's about a particular story, and it does become, you do bring it down to your own little world, you know, so that therefore that little diamond becomes just shining everywhere. And there are ways to do that. There are things like the engagement of the eyes. A lot of people have dead eyes when they sing and talk. I have very dead eyes. I have dead eyes right now. Right, and especially as I get older, I hate it because my voice, this also comes down more, and I look like I'm angry.
Oh dear!
But as soon as I do this, I smile with the eyes. I look like I'm engaged. I look like I really want to hear what you have to say, and I'm saying to whomever I'm talking to, I really want you to hear this. You know, so it's that thing. I mean, some people overdo it and it becomes a little sickening sweet, you know. As long as you're wanting, your reason for doing it is really, really honest and you really want to communicate, it's through the eyes. And just things like sometimes people stay absolutely stiff as they're singing. And, you know, you need that little bit of movement. I don't care whether you're an opera singer or a country singer or a rapper. There, you know, energy has to move, and energy comes from the earth and the air, and has to move through your body. So if you're stiff like this, you're not going to be able to let that fly out of you.
Yeah.
And what else? Another thing that helps with is going for the high notes rather than, you know, ma, you know, which is kind of eh. But if you drop the jaw and you kind of move ma. You let it kind of flow out of you, you know. So it's a real great performance is a combination of really good technique, a commitment to the song you're singing, a real commitment. You know, and a lot of younger people, they'll choose songs that are their favorite artist du jour. And I get that. We did that too, you know. You have your favorite artist, and that's how we learn growing up. But at some point, you want to say, well, what do I want to say? And how can I make it? And of course, if you're a songwriter, that's even better.
That's right. Is there something that you have found that most people miss when they come to singing? And I know that you just explained a whole bunch of different sort of qualities there and things. Is there something that is forgotten or taken for granted more often than others when it comes to singers?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I think some of what I said, you know, that the commitment to every single word as it goes by you. And maybe the idea of singing the song as if it's the first time you've thought those lyrics. So, you know, you go on automatic pilot. If you go on automatic pilot, and this happens to, you know, people who have big stars who have big hits, and they have to sing them for the next 30 years. Well, how do you keep that alive? You know, you guys went through that, right? When you'd have to do the same songs every night. And how do you keep that alive? Well, there's all kinds of things you can do. Again, just the saying, okay, I want to reach you, and I want to reach you, and I want to reach you. Mm-hmm. Another thing we might miss is how hungry your audience is for you to have a great time, mm-hmm. for you to just, they come there and watch you because, you know, maybe they have a boring life. Maybe they wish they could be you up there doing what you do, because music is magical in that way. And everybody wants to be a rock star, you know. Not everybody, obviously, but everybody, you know, is gravitating to that because it feeds the soul. Music is the universal opener of life and the soul. And, you know, we get back to ourselves when we get back to our voice often. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So maybe artists do miss the fact that that person out there really wants you to be successful, mm-hmm. and wants you to touch them. I would say to people, what do you think an audience member remembers when they go home after a concert? And of course, the answer is they remember how you made them feel. They don't remember if you sang a couple notes off pitch. They don't remember if the rhythm wasn't quite there, blah, 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 blah. But they remember how they felt. Mm-hmm. So we have to go beyond just the technical and make it into an art and a communication form.
Interesting.
I am so happy to hear you say that. Like, that is I think, very life-giving to the whole experience of going and hearing live music or a concert, because you know, as performers, you do your thing, you also have nerves. You also bring your, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get this, or I hope they like it, or whatever. You nailed it right there. We're all there because we want to be there. And it really is that beautiful exchange and the sharing, right, yeah. of that lyric, or of right. that tune, or of that note.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, you know, you bring your nerves. Bring your nerves to the table, because what that is an expression, an honest expression of how you are feeling at that moment. Do not try and cover up the nerves, because then you'll be plastic. You know, share the nerves. I mean, I'm not saying you say, oh, I'm nervous, yeah. but, you know, let yeah. your body just go, wow, you know, and let it come out, because that shows vulnerability. And we love to see vulnerability on stage. There is nothing more exciting than to see somebody who you do not know what they're going to do next, because they're so in the moment that maybe all of a sudden they'll start dancing around, or maybe all of a sudden they'll go really, really loud on a note, you know, if it works in the song, or maybe they'll talk about something. And that's another thing we should talk about is, you know, the talking in between songs. But there's nothing more exciting than watching a person that you just can't take your eyes off them, because they're just wacky. Mm-hmm. And if you're very still and staid and the eyes are dead, you're not going to be powerful.
Yeah, it's hard
powerful.
To imagine. Yeah, it's hard to imagine. Yeah, people doing anything musical without having a little bit of life or life.
Right now. You know, for everything I say, there's someone who breaks that rule. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing, after 9/11 happened, and they had this concert about a month afterwards, and everybody was raw. Everybody was so raw after 9/11. And it was a concert with all these candles, and just different stars were singing in a room by themselves, basically. And Neil Young sang John Lennon's Imagine. And honestly, he had his hat on, which covered his eyes, more or less, and you couldn't see him, so you could understand, you know, the poor camera guy's trying to get his eyes, but he couldn't. So, and he just sat there and sang, you know, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. And I mean, it could have been so boring, but what he did was he reeled us in. He reeled us in with his silence and the beauty of, and he obviously had great respect for the moment, that this was way bigger than him.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's another thing that artists miss. It's not about you.
Hmm.
Many events that we perform at, it's bigger than you and I. You know, first of all, the song is bigger. I've always said I have such a great respect for a great song, and we are only purveyors and interpreters of that song. But the event, and so often we're asked to do charity events, many of us, you know, and summer concerts and summer outdoor things. Not right now, but and when you open your arms and look around you, just take it all in, rather than being, oh my God, so nervous, and getting up there on stage and you've got blinders on. But it's about this. It's about, you know, look at that person as you sing this line, or I don't know, something, you know, when you open up yourself to the largesse of the event, mm-hmm. It's just so much better.
Mm-hmm. Well, nerves, I would say that is really common, isn't it? Among a lot of people. You hear so many people say that they can't beat the nerves, or it can be just so frightening. Yeah. And so what is that? What do you say to those people? How do you overcome that?
First of all, absolute preparation. Absolute preparation. You know the words to your song. You know everything. Preparation and this was always a big one for me as a performer. What the heck am I going to say? And you don't always say something between songs. Sometimes you go right into the next song. But when I'm coaching people that are working towards a show of some sort, whether it's 3 songs or whether it's 12 songs, in a show, there has to be an arc to the show, and you have to know exactly what you're going to say. Why? Because you may not be very good at that. I wasn't. There are people that get really good at it over the years. But I will tell you that so many great and famous artists, honest to God, were made to work on their speaking in between. Some of them are great storytellers, especially in the country world, of course. But sometimes those stories get too long, and maybe they have to be truncated, or sometimes they're not personal enough, you know, and they're away. I mean, Jan Arden is the best in between songs. I mean, she's hilarious, you know, and she would reel out these stories and whatnot. It's as simple as, you know, I decided to do this song because it spoke to me. I don't know. I heard it when I was 8 years old, and it's been in my brain ever since. Bang, go into the song. It can be something very, very short, or it can be a long thing. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. What was I in the process? I was naming some things. I got waylaid. Things that contribute to the performance. Oh, you said nervousness. Yeah. Being prepared, being really prepared. Mm-hmm. Nothing like preparation. Even to the point of having your gear, making sure, you know, you have extra guitar strings, making sure you have bring your own mic in case their mic doesn't work or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You know, what can go wrong will go wrong, kind of thing. Murphy's Law. And I talk a lot about, when I'm working with technique, one of the very, very, very first things that I do with people is teach them how to get into their lower body. Literally pushing into their legs, pushing into their feet. Because what that does is it grounds you. You're literally letting yourself be pulled into the ground. Mm-hmm. So you don't have that feeling of being all up here, mm-hmm. right? Which makes you sort of teeter-totter, and also can make you almost not have any breath. I had one guy who was a brilliant voice, just a beautiful voice. He wasn't famous at all, and he was asked to do a big show in not Carnegie Hall in New York, another hall, the Town Hall, and he was opening for another act, and he had 3 songs to do. And he had experience before where literally he stepped onto a stage and started to sing, and he went spaghetti brain. He went black in his, like he couldn't see, because the blood wasn't flowing to his brain because he was so tense and so tight. And this was before I worked with him. And he said, what'll I do if that happens? I said, no problem, right? I said, all you're going to do is as soon as you start the first line, you're going to take 1 foot and you're just going to do a little step ahead like that and let your body go into that leg. And they invited me to come to New York for the show because they wanted me to warm him up and hold his hand and everything. And I was sitting out in the audience when I warmed him up and got him all going and everything. And I was sitting out in the audience and, yep, first line. The end of the first line, I just saw him step into that foot. And I elbowed his partner and said, he's going to be fine. Oh. So, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but warm up, I mentioned warm up. That's the other thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know how to warm up. They don't know what to do to warm up. They just sing their songs a few times. That's okay. But there are things that, a whole warm up routine. I do have a whole recording of, Elaine Overholt's big voice warm up routine that
I know it well.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's fantastic.
I love it. And you know what I really, really love is the different medias or versions that you have, because it's on my phone, so you're not carting a video. Like, it's just so well done and so handy. Yeah. As much or as little as a person needs at a time. Bam.
Yeah. And the audio recording is on iTunes. Unfortunately, I haven't put the DVD, or what was the DVD, the video recording, and the reason is it wasn't recorded in high definition, and it sort of has that old feel to it now. And I need to do something new, but anyway, I'm working on it.
So just a quick story, Elaine, about that DVD. So we're actually about to release a new CD ourselves. And so when we were preparing for it, Denise told us about your DVD. And we all had to go get your DVD, which we did. And then we took it further, and we all had to check in with each other on a daily basis to say that we had done your warm-up for a long time. Yeah. So,
wow.
Oh, yeah. So
what did you find? How did you find it helped? In what ways did it help you guys?
For me, I love your accompaniment with it, because you can learn an exercise, but then if you don't have the accompaniment to actually practice to, right, it's kind of awkward. It's not efficient, right?
Right.
And so I like it. I love what you've done. I have to talk to you, by the way.
What?
I love the transitions and your connecting registers. I just think it's really effective for my voice and helping me work that out. And the agility part, and that's what I have to talk to you about. I do not know how you do your arpeggios as fast as you do them.
You mean the you mean those?
Yes, you do them all smooth. And I've just, oh my goodness, but it's okay. I'm still working on it. Still going.
I suggest is you pause it, do them quite slowly. Nay, 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 nay. Just start with that. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. A little faster. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay. And then put the other notes in, the next three notes, that way. So again, you break it down, right? And all of a sudden, you're doing it.
That's good. Bonus
yeah, what were you going to say, Maria?
What's that?
What were you going to say something?
Yes, I was. I was going to say that I'm not used to using my voice or making the sounds that you would lead us with. And so that was like a whole new territory. Yeah.
And that's so important, because it's very important for a singer to be willing to try something outside the box. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you might, and don't get me wrong, there are singers who have a definitive sound that I won't mess with. Do you know what I mean? It's definitive, it's powerful, it's beautiful. But within that, I'm going to teach them good technique. But there are other singers who've never tried that. That's why it's good when they're, a singer is younger, to sing many different genres. Go from Aretha Franklin to Dolly Parton to a classical piece, see where because you might discover something you never knew about yourself. Mm-hmm. And certainly from a technical point of view, it's great to make yourself do stuff outside the box. Like often I'll give a younger person a song that they've never heard of, and they think, ooh, and I can tell. You think, I don't know if I want to do this song. And I used to do a glee class, with younger ones, and they turn their nose up. I don't always choose a song, by the way. Usually it's you choose a song and one that you love, and then I'm going to choose a song for you. But anyway, they'll say, when Elaine first gave me this song, I really didn't like it, and I thought, oh God, this. And now it's my favorite song and I love it. You know, and I do have a pretty good ear and feeling for what is a great song, you know, and they need to learn the important songs from history, because we build our, yes, say that again.
No, and just, I'm sorry, my connection is kind of choppy. Another thing that I have found with a lot of the young singers, and what I think is actually most important for younger singers, when I started singing, I was one of those girls who you just sang, right? There wasn't a whole lot of instruction or whatever, and a lot of freedom, and which was great. But I also developed some bad habits.
Yes.
And it then with training and instruction and the information that you give, learning how to get to places you don't think you can get to. Because and I've heard so many, you know, singers say to me, well, my voice can't do that. And I'm going, hold on, I don't know, don't be so sure. Because sure, we all have a range. Yeah. But when you understand how to get to where you want to go in a safe way, properly with your voice, which is what your instruction and your DVD and your class did. Imagine young voices getting that training from the beginning. Like, I think that's the goal right there, is that little bit of information.
Yeah. And here's, you know, it's tricky. Here's the thing. You have to have a really good teacher who isn't imposing everything that they know, but is opening themselves to this singer. You know, I've taught, I do a lot of pedagogic work, teaching teachers how to teach. And that's the first thing I say to them. You have to go where the artist is. Get their confidence, and then you can start to take them to new places, like you said. And that's tricky. There are teachers, and then there are teachers out there. And so a parent of a younger child has to do a lot of research. Right. It's like, you guys know, you play instruments. If you don't have that proper care at the beginning of life, especially, you know, with piano playing, it's like, if you don't train those fingers right, with fiddle playing, if you don't train those fingers right, they can get kind of screwed up. With the vocal cords, the same thing can happen. I love, and by the way, in early life, what you said about you just were taught to sing, and that is beautiful. And when people come to me wanting me to work with their 5 and 6-year-old, I say, no, go let them play an instrument and let them sing in choirs or sing in community groups, and they're going to sing. Let them just sing for fun. Interesting. At this point. Now, having said that, again, there's always another side to it. I have had parents come to me saying, "Can you help, because our daughter is losing her voice?" And there have been more than one occasion where, like, an 8-year-old will have nodes on her vocal cords. Wow! From screaming too much, or usually it's a screaming thing in the house, or you know, they're really a loud family, or it's not from singing usually, or going to baseball games or football games and screaming. You know, that goes for older people too. Or there was one point where she lost her voice, or had laryngitis, let's say, had a really, really bad cold, lost it, and then kept singing on it or kept screaming on it. And so it's like building scar tissue upon scar tissue. Then you need to have some medical intervention and all of that sort of stuff. So as much as I say, let your child just sing, you know, if your child is experiencing, or you're a teenager or whatever, or you are experiencing severe tiredness, like you lose your voice very quickly, very, very breathy, hoarse voice constantly. You know, occasionally somebody will get laryngitis, and it's a little bit of a virus attack or a bacterial infection, and then you do have to take it easy, because it's because your vocal cords are red, raw, and inflamed, and it's like you've got to let them heal, and then you get back into singing very slowly. And that's where it's important to have warm-ups that are gentle warm-ups and starting back. You know, it's the same if you broke your arm. You're not going to go out and play tennis right away. You know, you're going to have to do exercises and work it back. So it's hard for anybody to know, you know, when do I need lessons and when don't I? Now, and also, there are some parents who say to me, she won't listen to me. She says, Mom, I have to have voice lessons. And then I'll say, okay, well, let's see what's going on. And that's the first thing I'll tell him, is to also learn an instrument, right? Anyway.
Amazing. So how do you take care of your voice?
Oh, really, lots of warm-up exercises whenever I'm going out to perform or to speak. If I'm doing a keynote speaking, right? I work with a lot of people who are speakers. I get lots of sleep. I have warm-ups, any warm-ups that bring the voice out of the vocal cord area, and use the resonators. That's a big thing that I work on, called, you know, basically it's resonance, and learning to how do we get these resonators, the and the z, yeah. So it's not yeah, you know. And in the morning you tend to, you know, you're not very warmed up, especially if you've stayed up later, screamed a lot the night before. What else do I do to take care of my voice? I think eat properly, you know. I mean, I love my one, everybody says, oh, well, if I eat this or drink that, I'll become a better singer, right? I say, well, not really. You got to put in the time. Again, somebody wants to get a shortcut to stardom, right? I have my one cappuccino in the morning, and that's it for the day. And then I eat pretty healthily, you know. Minimal meats, lots of vegetables and fruits. And on the days that I'm performing, making sure about 2 hours ahead of time, if it's a big performance or whatnot, that I have eaten something. I remember working with a girl once, and I was taking her into the recording studio. She was just the most brilliant singer. And it turns out actually she had a bit of a fight with anorexia. And just a stunning R&B singer. So we worked for only about a half an hour in the studio. You know, she's in the booth recording, and all of a sudden she just, you know, she wasn't there. She wasn't there in any way. And I said, did you eat today? And she said, oh yes. I said, what did you eat and when? She said, oh, well, I had a half a bagel at 10 o'clock this morning. And this was at 8 o'clock at night. You know, so she had nothing to feed her body. When you go out onto a stage, oh my God, especially like some of the stuff that you guys, you know, do. It's like you're dancing and you're moving all over the place. You've got to feed and have protein and carbs.
Okay. What about water and alcohol?
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that, shouldn't I? Well, alcohol, you know, dries your throat.
I was hoping that maybe you weren't going to mention it, because then.
Okay, so if you're in a country club and a country bar and you're going to drink eight beers, you know, a night, or 10 or 12, you know, that's not going to serve you well. It's going to feel great. It was God's gift to the music industry, and nothing could harm me. And I was, you know, had been classically trained, so I kind of knew how to, you know, look after my voice and stuff. But I partied. Because I was 22 or 23 or something like that. I had to cut the tour short. And by 4 weeks. And I lost a pant load of money. Came back with my tail between my legs. So I learned that lesson. Of course, you know, Newfoundland's hard, as you know. It's like a party place, right? You know, if you want to have one glass of wine, fine. But you know, keep the whole thing clear, keep it pure, keep it, I don't know. It's just, you want to clear your system. You want to be powerful. And sometimes, you know, also when we drink while we're performing, we think we're just God's gift to humanity. We think we've just done the best performance in the world. And then if you look back on video, and you kind of go, oh, maybe not. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just a long term, it's just so drying. The alcohol is drying to the voice and drying to the body and drying to the vocal cords. And when your vocal cords get dry, they have friction. They have friction and they don't have that nice fluidity, and you can develop problems, serious problems.
Yes, yeah. It's amazing. Again, it's easy to take the voice for granted, but the relationship between the voice and the body, like you were speaking about before, and
absolutely, it's all one.
Well, it's interesting because with an instrument, you can change the strings. You can get new skins on the drum. You can get a bow. You can't get a voice.
And another very important thing that you brought that up is sound systems. And being able to hear yourself on stage. That is humongous. And let's face it, we've all played places where you can't hear a bloody thing. So you either end up screaming because you can't hear yourself, or, you put your finger in your ear and all of that good stuff. Earbuds are like a great, great, great invention. But if it's a loud crowd, if you're in a club, for instance, and it's a very noisy place. Oh my God! And when you're in between, and you're in a club and you're in between sets, and the place is pumping out music that is so loud, and you go out into the house, and you're talking to your friends, and you don't realize you're talking this loudly because you got to make them hear you, and you've just done an hour show. So I tell and especially when singers are really kind of losing their voice or compromised or haven't been used to doing that kind of gig, I just say you just go up to somebody's ear and you speak very closely right into their ear like a normal human being without raising your voice. That's what you have to do. I work with a lot of Broadway singers, and both people who are on Broadway and people who are working for Mirvish Productions. And the ones that are getting, the big solo roles, they probably, if they might go out, because actors love to go to the pub afterwards and have a beer. But a lot of them won't, especially the leads in the play, because again, the alcohol, and because in a lot of these places, these restaurants, even going for with a family restaurant, you're talking this loudly because it's so loud in there.
It's so true. Yeah, it is amazing how true that is. Yeah. So then, speaking of Broadway, you've worked with all kinds of people, and you've worked with all kinds of styles of music. What have you learned? Like, you've experienced and seen so much. You've worked with so many different artists. Are there any sort of certain things that you've learned as a result of all of, like, any commonalities between all those worlds? Anything that is consistent?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably a deep one. The commonalities would be the putting the lyric first. Always putting the lyric first, which a great actor is able to do. But any of us, even if you don't consider yourself an actor, we are basically doing a monologue when we do a song. So it's not acting like this. That's not what I'm talking about. And you get little kids like da 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 da, and teachers teach them to smile when you sing and all of that. That's not what I'm talking about. It's acting in the truest form, where you're really getting behind each and every line and word of a song. I do a lot of what's called sense memory work when you're performing a song, of taking someone from your own life. That's the memory part, and creating that sense of communicating to them. So we'll do things like look at a spot on the wall, and it's them, and you're talking to them. And usually often what happens is this thing will start to well up, and people will start to even cry sometimes. Or they'll make this huge connection, and it's nothing to do with how loud you sing or what great technique you have. It's about connecting to the song. What other commonalities? That's probably the biggest one. And certainly having great technique, knowing how to warm up. There is in musical theater, there's a difference between different eras of musical theater. The older style is a little bit more pronounced when you da 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 da, and everything is spit out and then the front of the teeth and it's over exaggerated, right? But a lot of newer musicals are, and certain songs within a musical are very much more sort of pop oriented. So it'll be not that kind of, like Les Mis, for instance, is one that's of the old style that you really spit out the words. But anything like Dear Evan Hansen or Jason Robert Brown, yeah, you spit out the words, no question. But there are moments of just tenderness. And every theater singer right now they have to also have a lot of pop and rock repertoire.
Interesting. And why?
Because so many of the shows, probably 90% of them that are written today and the last decade or so, are more pop and rock kinds of shows.
Interesting.
So often in auditions, the auditioner will say, no musical theater songs, please. And yet they're doing Rock of Ages, which is a show on stage or whatever the show is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and just the communication, just your communication on stage is that goes, whether you're doing classical or not, or classical or country or rap or whatever.
That's so interesting to hear about the Broadway shows, because so the theme of our virtual event is the world of music.
Right.
And we're looking at it from all different angles and points of view. But to hear that, so that's a pretty interesting, do you call it a trend in Broadway? Because are more people writing pop and rock shows because they are catering to a new audience? Why is there such a shift? What's going on?
I think that's true. They're catering to a new audience. Waitress is another one. Of course, that's, what's her name wrote that? The pop singer. Oh my God, she's just gone out of my head. She actually starred in it as well.
No, is that the Sarah Bareilles?
Sarah Bareilles, thank you. Yeah, and now Sarah Bareilles, you see, is a pop singer, and that's where she lives. So when she writes, a Broadway show, it's going to be, she was smart enough to know I've got to write within the wheelhouse of what I know and what I do well. And it's, it turned out to be a beautiful thing. Yeah, and I mean, I suppose there would be people that would say, well, not as many writers have the breadth of music that Rodgers and Hammerstein had, or Stephen Sondheim had, or that they can be writing for full orchestra and doing these massive mega musicals. I think also it's because of lack of money these days. A lot of musicals tend to be, I mean, other than Disney was, but those shows came out of the movie first, right? The movie came first before, Beauty and the Beast became a Broadway hit, and Little Mermaid and all that went on Broadway. They were movies. So, and that's the whole Disney thing, is the big, orchestrated songs and stuff like that. But they're still kind of pop.
Yep.
Right? But a lot of theater companies can't afford to do these massive mounts, so they're going to do smaller works.
Yep. Interesting. Well, again, it's another world, and it isn't one that we're as familiar with. The musical world that we live in is different, but we certainly appreciate it, and it has inspired us, as young children, the sound of music.
Of course,
but there are many. There are many, and so, but the fact that you have traveled through so many of these worlds, and you're working with, an instrument that every human being has, right?
I even work with rappers, by the way.
Oh,
I love working.
Wow.
Love working with rappers.
Wow.
It's about getting it on the tip of the teeth and the tongue and the lips. 2 rappers I'm working with right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's about that again, that forward performance into the legs, into the forward thing, which is a little harder to show on Zoom and stuff because usually I'm running around the stage and stuff showing people. But yeah, and country artists, folk
Yep.
artists. Just before I spoke to you, I was working with a folk artist.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's
I
really,
love it. I love it. It's made me have to be quite broad in my thinking.
oh yes.
You
Hey,
know?
the big world.
It's a big world. What's the name of your theme?
Oh, the world of music.
There
The
you
world
go.
of music. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, what we haven't gotten into is all of the, music from the Middle East
Yeah.
and all those. I mean, you could just. I mean, they do university courses now on that sort of stuff, and the rhythms of Africa and South America and rhythm stuff. Just I'm
I
crazy
I
about rhythm.
I want to be with you in person for that one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not sure I'm the one to do that. Although I have always done R&B and I'm always big time into rhythm. I get people we put on a metronome or click track and I'll say speak the words to this click track. I want to go where da 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 da.
Yeah.
And it takes them a while to get there. And then you put the actual notes into it,
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh my gosh, so much.
lots of fun.
So one last question, Elaine.
Okay.
For all that you know and for everyone that you've worked with and for the intimate knowledge you have about the voice, music and non-musical, what's the last thing that made you go, wow, like the last aha moment that you had?
The last aha moment. How, if I'm truthfully myself and trust my instincts and come back to that each time I go to sing. And then what I want to do really is to create the magic. And I throw away all of the stuff that I think I should be doing and I concentrate on making the magic. That's a kind of a weird answer.
Nope.
But a lot of people will be giving you information because you have teachers and you have different people that you hire to help you out and this and that and record label people and blah, 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 blah. But every time I sit down by myself, I'm thinking I want to create magic, and that individualistic sound, style, song is going to be what sets you apart from everyone else. So it's a matter of getting rid of all the noise around you and zeroing in. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
You take much of what we learn from our mentors,
Yep.
our teachers, the people around us, the artists that we admire and adore. You look at it, you turn it inside out, and you try it, and this and that and the other thing, and then if it doesn't, if that particular thing doesn't, you just trust your instincts in the long run.
Okay. So is that the same thing, Elaine, as, and this may not be correct, excellence is really great and everyone strives for excellence, but the magic that you're talking about, is that the honesty, the vulnerable, the communicating, is that what you're also saying? Excellence is great, but you're going for the other.
Yeah, you need the excellence, you need the craft of singing.
Yep.
Now we're talking about going into artistry.
Yeah, there you go.
Where you're creating something new.
Right.
Something different from every other person on the planet.
Yep.
Do you know that, and this is maybe a good thing to leave it on, that every human voice is completely different, and they do now FBI things, instead of using fingerprints, they do voice prints.
Unbelievable.
So that's very empowering to know that my voice is different from everyone else on the planet.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's up to me as an artist to strip away all the layers of crap that we learn over the years and figure out and just come out like a flower and let yourself fly, and there are a million things that I do with people in order for that to happen.
Right.
So
we've experienced that and we remember it. And we have, you've been with us for years, even though we haven't been in purpose, but yeah, you have been.
that's amazing.
Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. Which is why we were so thrilled that this was all possible and that you could be with us for this virtual.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. And you're terrific.
Really?
You guys are all terrific. And thank you. You asked great questions today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for answering them. Like, truly, it means a lot. And we really respect everything that you've done and what you're doing. And so it is a true pleasure.